begin this battle. My soul was so damn fragile. I was looking at life through a fog. I lost my baby girl and they killed my dog. I was laying on the bottom feeling sad, thinking about doing bad things, raging fucking mad. I couldn't understand why I was chosen. Then it led to my rage and explosion. I am the one who can make this better. It's my job to make things right. I need to pick myself up. It's time for my biggest fight. Wrap your kids in the Bible. Wrap your kids in the flag. CPS is from the devil. Y'all know that it's a fact. I'm a father that went to jail. I cherish my daughter. It was nothing when they come for her and me. There should have been a slaughter. Stand with us. Make parenting great again. Abolish CPS. Ambush with the black SUVs. They come armed, they came for me, and they came for her. Stand with us, make parenting great again, abolish CPS. They took her from me, she's across the state. Gone for a year now, taken away. All these people who have written me off, I'm here to show my face and tell you you're wrong. I never was as good as you, and for the record we know that's not true. I'm not trying for a comparison. How dare you, you're embarrassing. I don't wanna be as good as anyone else. I fight this battle, I fight for myself. I am the one who can make this better. It's my job to make things right. I need to pick myself up. It's time for my biggest fight. I don't care about your judgment, I'm glad you gave us this test. But when your life is over, will your heart sleep quietly in your chest? I've got more life to live. As a matter of fact, it's just beginning. I've been given a challenge and my daughter is waiting. It's a fight I can't walk away from, a new life we are creating. So why you sit there mouth full of hating? Be sure my mind is planning on invading. I've got a war to fight and I'm on. I won't give up, I need to win, this is bigger than you. I don't expect you to understand. I am the one who can start over. It's my job to make things right. I need to pick myself up. It's time for the biggest fight. I won't be left behind. This is the time, I call it mine. Step out of the way unless you wanna play. Trump, stand with us. Make parenting great again, abolish CPS. There is no time for bickering. The clocks are flickering. Pick up your weapon and join me. If not, go back to ignoring me. I will be on top, pistol going pop, pop. Money falling from my pockets. You'll still be lying on dockets, so fuck you.
In the heartland and the cities, from coast to rolling plains, kids are crying out for justice, trapped in foster care chains. Promises were broken and dreams turned into dust, in a system built on power where no one we can trust. Let's burn bridges of deception, light a fire for what's right. Tear down walls of silence, bring the truth into the light. For the children who are voiceless, for the hearts that feel alone, we'll stand and fight together till every child finds a home. They say it's for their safety, they say it's for their good, but behind those empty phrases, we see them misunderstood. Families torn asunder by a system cold and blind. It's time to raise our voices and leave no child behind. Let's burn bridges of deception, light a fire for what's right. Tear down walls of silence, bring the truth into the light. For the children who are voiceless, for the hearts that feel alone, We'll stand and fight together till every child finds a home. So let's hold them to their promises. Let's call out every lie. For the sake of all our children, we won't back down or comply. From Georgia to the Rockies, from the bayou to the coast, we'll burn the bridges that divide us and fight for what matters most. Let's burn bridges of deception, light a fire for what's right. Tear down walls of silence, bring the truth into the light. For the children who are voiceless, for the hearts that feel alone, we'll stand and fight together till every child finds a home. So let's hold them to their promises. Let's call out every lie. Sure, here's a country themed song titled Burn Bridges, that reflects the systematic failures in the foster care system nationwide. Complimenting your song, Georgia's Hidden Scarlet. Let's let's hold them to their promises. Let's call out every lie.
Running for CPS like a lion on the prowl. Take back our kids, bring them home now. Constitution, strong blood won't lie. No more corruption, let freedom fly. Loud and on fire, won't back down. Keeping the faith here in this town. Apple pie dreams under a southern sky. American man with a fierce battle cry. Stand up, fight for justice, we demand. Gunning for CPS off our land. For family truth with a strong hand. Time to rise, take a stand. Corruption falls like shattered glass. Together we stay, no more broken past. Faith and hope, never too far. Return our kids, make them the stars. Fierce in heart and steady in soul. Families united, make the broken whole. Justice for all, America strong. Sing this anthem loud, sing our song. Stand up, fight for justice, we demand. Gunning for CPS off our land. For family truth with a strong hand. Time to rise, take a stand. Corruption falls like shattered glass. Together we stay, no more broken past. Faith and hope, never too far. Return our kids, make them the stars. Corruption falls like shattered glass. Together we stay, no more broken past. Faith and hope, never too far. Return our kids, make them the stars. Stand up, fight for justice, we demand. Gunning for CPS off our land. For family truth with a strong hand. Time to rise, take a stand. Take a stand.
And here we go. Who are we going to piss off today? Guys, welcome to Gunning for CPS. I am your host, Gunner. We have a great show for you guys tonight. We're refining a little bit more of our format. So we're going to get a little bit more structured with you guys. Guys, I've got some exciting news tonight. We've got some great topics we're going to cover. Some recent stuff with the release of the DOJ letter. and the to the senator. Actually, it went to all the senators. From the information that we've gathered, it was just that senator revealed that, or it was published. But tonight's guest, we're going to talk on this, and we have a little bit of history. This next guest that we have, it's actually where I first started out with when I was going through my case, where I was getting the big receiving of who was making headway and sifting through to eventually end where I am now, with a good friend of mine, as many of you may know. Well, let's do this. How about we just show you a little bit of who we have for our special guest and how we got together to break the first story that we ever broke together.
You guys, Child Protective Services in Tennessee is in a lot of trouble. What Child Protective Services doesn't want you to know. Stick around because this one is a good one. What if I was to tell you we actually have direct evidence of CPS and the state of Tennessee committing treason? Yes, treason. If you live in Tennessee and you have a CPS case, or you did have a CPS case, you're going to want to stick around. You might be asking yourself at this point, how do you possibly have evidence of the state of Tennessee and CPS committing treason? Well, that's a good question, because it all involves the Tennessee Department of Children's Services Handbook. And I'm going to show you how. You see, this is the Tennessee Department of Children's Services Policies and Procedures. It was actually published December of 2016. Now that's very important, and we're going to come back to that point here in a second. You see, this is a book that is teaching you everything about the Constitution of the United States of America. All of Child Protective Services policies and procedures must fall in line with the Constitution, as well as the Tennessee Constitution. Okay, in the Client's Rights Handbook, we're going to scroll down to page 6. Once you get down to page 6, we're going to look at paragraph 2. At the onset of the investigation, the investigator will hold an initial interview with your child to determine their immediate safety. This interview will take place away from the alleged abuser, either at home, school, or in another safe location. Your consent is not required for an interview to take place. Let me read that again. Your consent is not required for an interview to take place. That is absolutely not correct. That paragraph right there is teaching your caseworkers that they can absolutely have the right and power to circumvent the Constitution and violate your 4th and 14th Amendment rights. Not only yours, but your children's as well.
Guys, I want you to take and help me welcome Malibu Dallas to the show.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me, Gunner. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, man. We've got a little bit of history of some ups and downs and fighting this fight together on different fronts. And the path did take us in 2 different directions. One difference that a lot of people don't know if you don't follow Dallas, compared to, I'm a parent that went through the system. Dallas is a product of the system. In other words, he's a kid that went through all this bullshit from his perspective. So his perspective is a whole lot different the way he approaches CPS versus how we as parents do, but he's found ways to correlate that between the parents also as you're going through it. And his ultimate thing is basically, I mean, for knowing Dallas as long as I have, is I don't let this happen to your kid. This needs to stop. And there's a whole story that we all have, but kids that have been through the system. Well, Dallas, let's cover a little bit of that. Give us a little bit of the stories you've heard, or even from your personal experiences of the horrors of the system on children.
Well, we all know the system is massively corrupt from the top down, right? It goes all the way. The corruption, in which I don't think people understand, is right now, I don't think people understand how far the corruption goes, how far the child trafficking actually goes. It goes all the way to the White House people, okay? There's been a huge track record of multiple presidents and administrations being involved in it. I'm not stating opinion. I'm actually stating fact.
The Clinton administration has passed executive orders to do things. The Obama administration did same things. These are well-known, documented facts that you can find out there.
Right, and I'm actually putting together some documents, doing a lot of research, doing a deep dive on a lot of this stuff, and I just put out a newsletter talking about some of it. But yes, you did mention that I am a victim of the system. I'm a product of the system. I'm a surviving product of the system, actually, and I'm very thankful the way that I went in my life and became who I am today. Because I mean, there's so many different ways that you can turn, right? You can turn into somebody who's abusive, right? Somebody who is promoting and jumping headfirst into all of these issues, or you can be somebody, on the other hand, who goes through the system and becomes a protector, someone who becomes a valiant voice, for those who are struggling, and that's that's the way that I did, and I'm thankful for it. Being a victim of child trafficking myself. In every single home that I was in, from the age of 7 to the age of 15. In every single home, I was either raped, tortured, starved, beaten to a pulp. That's in every single home. It's not just an isolated incident. So a lot of people say, oh, I'm jaded, or I have a lot of different issues with CPS. You're damn right. I have a lot of issues with CPS. I have a lot of issues with police officers. I have a lot of issues with lawyers. I have a lot of issues with judges and everybody who's in some type of authority figure who thinks that they are above the law, who's somebody who thinks that they are operating as gods, and that's just not who you are. You're an actually public servant, and you need to be put in your place, and that's exactly what Gunner, you, me, and other advocates who know what we're talking about are actually doing. And thank God we have an administration in office in the White House that is, doing a bang up job so far within the first 30 days.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of this goes with a lot of case law that has happened lately. The overturning of the Chevron doctrine, and I'll say this over again, the amount of evil that gave the wiggle room to the things it needed to do to what we see today of the mass corruption, a lot of it can be traced back to the Chevron doctrine, because they were considering themselves specialists. And it said right in the case law, we get to pick and choose which laws we get to follow. And that was what it was. And that's where it said, no, when it was overturned, that's unconstitutional. You must follow case law. Nobody's exempt from that case law.
A huge thing that people don't understand about that is when either the Supreme Court rules something to be unconstitutional, or the DOJ recently, and you're going to talk about this, the DOJ recently submitting a letter saying that administrative law judges are basically
here
unconstitutional.
Here's the letter that we broke the news about the same time. What was it? A couple of days ago within our groups. I mean,
yeah, it was crazy. So, Gunnar, you're going to talk about this a little bit later, but what people don't realize, and this is flabbergasting to me, well, to me, because I know the law pretty well, but parents need to understand, and people going through the legal system need to understand that when something is deemed unconstitutional, it has an adverse reaction to everything that's happened in the past. It basically tumbles back into the past, where if you were convicted under something that was unconstitutional, or a judge made a ruling based on something that was basically unconstitutional, everything from that point forward is actually unconstitutional, and everything from the past
backwards,
it gets retroactive in the past.
That's why we were telling people about that if you've had a case even 20 years ago and a Fourth Amendment violation, there's no statute of limitation. You can still sue today. And because of what has happened, the courts are now wide open. Rooker versus Feldman, we're not even going to deal with Rooker versus Feldman anymore, which was the obstacle we had to overcome because of state sovereignty, that under executive order from the president is what he's saying is, I back up SEC versus Jarsky, And I'm calling you out on your bullshit because it says right in there that we've been saying if a judge has the ability, administrative judge, to invoke civil penalty is right in there in the case law, that it requires a trial by jury and gives a ton of Seventh Amendment line by line by line by line, I mean, pages of it, of why it fits this. Now Trump has picked up on that ruling and said, now I'm coming after you for all the bullshit you've been doing and all your unconstitutional. That's exactly what that letter meant when it was published, is notifying the senators to notify your states, because it's the government notifying the states through the senators, as it should be. Guess what? You better let everybody know in your state. We find out that it's unconstitutional, it's game on, baby. And we just got the DOJ on board too. That's what that letter was saying, was DOJ's on board with this. We're coming after your corrupt ass. We've got too much. There's been too much noise about child trafficking that came up, especially with TikTok. All of a sudden, everybody started talking. What's the first thing that they wanted to shut down? TikTok. Why? Because it exposed them.
Exactly. So a lot of things that is going to trickle down from this letter, and this is just my own belief in what I see happening in the future, is I think this administration is gearing up to do something massive when it comes to restoring the United States of America under a republic and under a constitution. These court systems have been far too corrupt for far too long, for decades and decades of absolute unlawlessness. And I think Trump and the administration is about ready to throw the gauntlet down and say, we're taking this back. You guys are unconstitutional, and you guys are about ready to suffer the wrath.
Guys, in our comments, we've got a couple of people here in the comments asking whether or not going to meet with Kash Patel and some of these others. I cannot, let's put it this way. I cannot discuss anything in an ongoing federal investigation, is all I'm going to say. It's not allowed. And we'll leave it at that, people. So understand, we have rattled the cages. We have got their attention. And as we announced before, we have been in contact with the DOJ, the FBI, and Army CID, because these are acts of treason, which means it doesn't go through the other courts. You go to a military tribunal and you have no constitutional rights. And isn't it funny though, Dallas, I was doing some research on Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where these tribunals are held. Did you know that they just recently completed a multi-billion-dollar remodel to add more cells, buildings and buildings of cells down there? I mean,
I didn't know that, but I'm glad they did. They're going to need it.
Somebody knew what was coming, people. This ain't stupid. You got to understand, there was a ceremony that Donald Trump did as 45. They gave the power over to the United States military because we were being overtaken. Overtaken. That is justifiable means for the president to turn it over to the military for those reasons. And if you don't understand ceremonies, that went, okay, he met with him. You have no idea what that ceremony meant. And I've been saying it all along. You and I have had conversations, and several other people. They don't know what's getting ready to happen. It's their last days with everything. And watch, he's found a way. Where do you hold them accountable? In the courtroom. Case law overturned. Case law overturned. What was Chevron and SEC done? I mean, that was a matter of what, a couple months? Mm-hmm. I mean, bam, bam. I was like, whoa, who's filing on this? And then you begin to look into it and you go, oh, look, it don't take, you have to dig hard to see who's filing on it. But that changes everything. And that's the way we should be. We should all be moving towards this push back to the Constitution, because it's the way it's supposed to be. Half of this shit would stop completely. Guys, educate yourself on your rights. Public education has failed you if you don't know what that says. and what it means in today's life. If you didn't
guys,
learn it, get with a group.
You guys, this
Great
literally
book.
is on my desk. This literally is on my desk at all times.
Yeah.
It's literally.
That is the binding contract. Every person that resides in this country must agree to live in this country, whether you like it or not. That is the treaty.
If you come to this country and you want a better life,
Yep.
and you're not willing to stand up and fight for the Constitution, and yet you come to this country expecting that we, the taxpayers, are going to foot the bill for you, and yet you're going to protest because you don't like the country that you came from, but yet you're going to protest in our country supporting your flag. What's the point, right? If you're not going to do this, then
this is why. This I can explain this why, because we have not been properly educated the difference between celebrating our culture compared to celebrating our nationality, and to separate the two. This is because of misinformation or lack of knowledge by people failing to be educated that there is a difference between the two. I can celebrate my culture as being Irish all day long. Well, you've got this, you've got that. Am I that? With some people, they're hard, extreme Irish, where they're Catholic Irish, and then you're very Irish. But, I trace my roots just a couple generations off of coming to this country on, we'll say, one side of the family. But I can celebrate that in any way that I choose in my home. And even they've set aside times to celebrate this publicly as a nation with stuff like St. Patty's Day or some of the other things. But our whole history has been destroyed of how we entered this country. We were indentured servants. We were slaves. We were the first slaves, some of the first slaves here from England.
I don't think people understand, when we first came to this country, slavery, like every single civilization, every single race, every civilization has enslaved its own people in one way or the other. It's crazy the way that we haven't gotten. How old is this country now? Over 230 years old. We haven't. Yeah. We're still in slavery.
Yeah.
We're not in a physical slavery, but maybe some of us are from child trafficking and human trafficking. But
right.
We, for the most part, we are under a financial slavery.
Absolutely.
And that's what the legal system is one of the biggest perpetrators of that.
Well, some states, going down through some of that too, goes back into property law. And property in some states, you can't get an allodial title where you actually own it. Now, Texas is a state that does have allodial titles to where technically you own the land, the state doesn't. Other than that, most states consider your property, which is why they get you into property taxes, is you don't actually own it. You're leasing it, and you get a portion of it. Other than that, it belongs to the county.
Do you know we are one of the only countries that actually does that? As much as we are at odds in a lot of ways with China, if you look at China, they don't have property tax. They have a sales tax when they purchase a home in the very beginning, but they don't have yearly property tax. They don't have property tax on their vehicles or their homes or anything like that. They own it outright. And that's why it stays into generation after generation after generation. We are one of the only countries that are literally robbing its citizens of that right.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
And the amount of money with the pricing of the housing market spiking like it did makes you really question a lot of things. Why can't I sell it? And be honest, I've seen people try to sell it and actually try and sell it below market value, even to family members, say as a family sale or something like that, or to help people out. And the counties will actually come out and throw a damn fit because you didn't get enough money for it, because it appraised because the county has an appraisal on it. How does the county have an appraisal on anything or the value, let alone technically your taxes is on what they appraise it for, not for what it sells for? And believe it or
Well,
not,
see,
you can challenge that and have
right,
them revert it.
and that's what we're fighting for is in of the Constitution again, right?
Yeah.
So, um, we're dealing with ultimately, Gunner, a system that is voting on laws that they're bringing up, that they're
Mhm.
developing, and then they vote on that law to be enacted. And then that law is now upheld and enforced by the people who enacted it in the first place and voted on it in the first place to do what? To benefit them, not us, right? That I mean, and property tax is one of them. It's taxation without
Right.
representation. We went to war over a 3% sales tax on tea. And now look at where we are with tax in this country, and we're still like,
Well,
okay, I'll
there's a
pay it, I guess.
backstory. There's a little bit more backstory to the Boston Tea Party on that stuff there. What actually, as Paul Harvey says, the rest of the story. There was actually competition. There was somebody else bringing tea in, not from England, and it was cheaper. It wasn't the better quality, maybe, or anything else, but it was a whole lot cheaper. So this had to do with the business transaction that turned into how they stood for this and that. The issue is they were getting it and trading with that, and the Native Americans, which was almost prohibited. You had to go through a white person during that time to trade with the ships. Most people don't know that. That's why you get the whole thing in the painting, why it was such a revolt. It was a political stunt because they dressed as Native Americans and pirates and other things when it had nothing to do with it. They just didn't want to pay the tax on it, and it was cheap somewhere else. So the easiest way to get, hey, what's not selling? The tea. Well, let's drop it. That's where it came out. Let's drop it below what they're getting it on basically the black market. When they did that, that's when they got pissed. Hey, you're trying to undercut our sales because your shit ain't moving. So they went over there and they dumped their shit overboard. Now you can't sell shit. That's the rest of the story. And but you're
Strategy,
not
I
told
guess.
that. Well, here's the thing. That's
Listen, we're
having
not
that narrow
told
perspective.
we're not told about a lot of stuff in history. You know, what they
Oh,
teach us, what they teach us in school, what they taught us in school when we were even back in the day, you know, a lifetime ago in history class. Well, like, we're learning like half the shit that they taught us. It's not even true. It's not even the way that it went
oh yeah.
down. And so I don't know. The Board of Education is being
Oh, the
shut
whole
down for a
thing with
reason.
with fossil fuels, oils being. Oh yeah. I mean, well, here's the other thing, and it should be, and here's why. And I can give you a legitimate reason why Department of Education should be completely defunded. This is why. Because you do not teach the Constitution. You took away calligraphy, same thing as cursive, to where now you have several generations that cannot read the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. That there is just an act of treason. I don't give a shit what you say or anything else or anybody else. I'm sorry, when you fail to educate our children as you get that federal funding to do, why the fuck don't they do it? I've got a senior in high school. We had to teach him here at home how to do calligraphy and cursive so he could read and write cursive when I got him back because the school didn't do it. Why is it important? Nobody does. Dude, you got to sign your name on things in cursive. You can't print. That's where they end up getting you. And we already caught them several times releasing stuff out to the public, changing the wording. Even Google was guilty of it when they got caught of what the Constitution said, especially with the Second Amendment. Guys, this is historically just one after the other. But systematically, we're seeing change in our country. And let's get to some of the core things of a proper court, or some of the other things they do is these CPS workers show up with false warrants, false court orders, and all this other stuff. And the general public doesn't know how to identify the difference because they're taking somebody's word for it.
This is where
So
education is
I think you've
very
got a section
important,
we're going to address
Gunnar. This is where I'm always saying knowledge is
Okay.
power, right? In my videos, knowledge is power. Give some. This is where
Absolutely.
education is very important. I think they should be teaching this stuff in high school before you even think about going to a college education. This should be basic stuff.
It should be done before you're of the age of 18 to vote or serve our country. That should be automatically done.
You should have to pass.
But have you got control there to bring up your pages there? Or do I have
Let
to
me
bring those
double
up
check
for
it
you?
real quick. But in my opinion, you should have to pass a political IQ test in order to vote. Gunnar, I think you're gonna have to pull them up.
Well, they wish
So
they could
pull
do
up-
them.
pull up-
That's fine. Well, guys, let's go through
Pull up
this here.
the don't pull that one up yet. Pull up the first signature page.
Okay.
There we go, guys. Okay. So what you guys are looking at, you're looking at a court document with a proper, a proper court order document that is legally and lawfully executed. You have a judge's signature, you have a judge's name, you have the judge's jurisdiction, and you have the court seal. Okay. Along with that, it's not on that page right there, but you'll also see it has to have the court clerk's signature as well. Okay. So let's go down to that, the other signature page, Gunnar. And I'm going to show you. See? So this is what we are seeing for the majority of court orders. Like final court order.
Looks like it's missing a lot
what do we
there.
not see here, Gunnar?
Let's see. Where's the clerk seal and signature? And it's been recorded.
Yep.
And
So
Judge so-and-so, where's your jurisdiction under
Right.
there, darling?
So this is what we're dealing with. So these are the types of signatures that you should see on court orders and processes. So we're going to go over the difference between what a writ is and what a process is. Okay, it's quite extensive. So if you got a couple of minutes, sit around because this is going to be very, very educational. All right, Gunnar, pull up the document, the PDF document that shows everything. All right. Yep. All right. So now this is a full breakdown. This is a full breakdown of Title 28 U.S. Code subsection 1691. Gunnar, is there a way to make that bigger?
I'm working on it here. Let's see. Benny, I know you're in the back room. You've got something to help us out here. Let's see. No, that's about as far as we get there.
Okay.
There we go. How about that?
Yeah, that'll work. Okay. So if you look at that first section where it's highlighted, it says all writs and process issuing from a court of the United States shall be under the seal of the court and signed by the clerk thereof. Now, words in the legal language, in the legal world, words mean a lot. The meaning
Legally
of certain things are
is what they
legally
call
is
it.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So when you say the word all writs and processes issuing from a court in the United States, right? That's what it means. You think this is all writs, all documents, all writs and processes should have what we were just talking about for signatures and endorsements, right? The purpose of Title 28 U.S. Code subsection 1691, this statute is procedural requirements under the Title 28 of the U.S. Code, which governs the judiciary and the judicial procedure. Specifically, subsection 1691 ensures the validity and the authenticity of a court order, writs, and process, which is summons, subpoenas, warrants, and etc. So if we scroll down to the next page, which is going to be right there, let's go down to what the difference is between writs and processes here in the middle of the page. You're going to see all writs and processes issuing from a court of the United States. Okay, what is a writ? A writ is a habeas corpus. A writ is a mandamus. A writ of mandamus. A writ is also something that you basically would file into a federal or higher court. Sometimes you can even file a habeas corpus in lower courts, right? So if they make a judgment on those, that's what a writ is. A process would be a summons, subpoenas, arrest warrants, search warrants. Those are all processes. So anything regarding a writ or a process should definitely have a proper signature, judge's name, judge's jurisdiction, the seal of the court clerk's signature. These are all very crucial in a document. Okay.
So what happens if they go to arrest you and none of those documents are presented?
Well, very good question, Gunnar. If we go to the third page here, legal implications of non-compliance. Okay. If a writ of process does not meet the requirements of Title 28 U.S. Code, subsection 1691, or the seal, it doesn't have the seal, it doesn't have the clerk's signature. All of this is implicating that these documents may be considered legally void. It's no different than you go into Walmart and buying toilet paper. This paper, if you receive a writ or a summons or a warrant that does not have these elements on that document, it's basically void. You can use that piece of paper as toilet paper. It's about what it's worth. So down here, I've actually got case law that backs that up, right? Schultz versus U.S., and that's a United States Supreme Court case. If you look at the highlighted case, when it says U.S. right there in the middle of the case, that means it's a United States Supreme Court case. So that's very, very crucial. Now, this was from the Sixth Circuit in 1985. You also have the other one down below, but these are also letting you guys know that the courts ruled, okay, in favor of what we are talking about. So here's some state law comparison. So Title 28 U.S. Code subsection 1691 is federal code, right? So you're going to have to look up similar statutes that are going to fit your specific state. For example, California Code of Civil Procedure, subsection 412.20, right, requires that summons be issued under the court's authority. That's basically stating the same thing as Title 28 U.S. Code subsection 1691. In Texas, where I live, okay, Texas Rules of Civil Procedure Title 15 requires that all writs bear the seal of the court and be signed by the clerk. So if you're receiving a court order, a warrant, a search warrant or arrest warrant, a summons, all of these are processes from the court. If you don't have these elements on that document, it's no longer legal or lawful, which means the judge and the court and the police officers are trying to enforce a legal proceeding and legal document that is not legal or lawful. Okay, that has huge implications.
Well, I noticed you said earlier, if we look back on a couple of pages, it said something about for an arrest warrant. It's a process. So that process is actually not being followed by a lot of police departments and or sheriff's deputies, so on and so forth. Because what is that process? That you have to have somebody go before a grand jury and
Mhm.
testify, and the grand jury has to send out that warrant.
Right. Well, you better
But there,
uh, the system, the courts, they better pray to God that that process has been completed, because now if it's not, then it's violating due process and civil procedure.
so if a judge issues an arrest warrant without going before a, um, going through that process of a grand jury, is it then legal then? If there's no grand jury to indict and an indictment sent down.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have to
So
have
that,
they have to go to the grand jury with probable cause. They have to go to the grand jury with evidence that is convincing in order
so
to
what if
even
they
convene a grand
bypass
jury.
the, so what do they do if they bypass the grand jury and the judge just writes it? Now where are we at?
No, that's a very good that's a very good question that we could dive down into the rabbit hole as well.
Yeah, I mean that's where, I mean, a lot of things is, you got to understand they've called themselves specialists under Chevron. They've had a lot of wiggle room, so now we have to analyze everything they're currently doing now to see whether or not it's even constitutional.
Mm-hmm. You think if
Which is,
people think that police officers and judges and lawyers have their best interests in mind when they're doing these processes? No, they don't. Zero.
no.
It's a money racketeering scheme. Okay, their main focus is to get you through all this process so they can start, on the back end creating payment bonds, performance bonds, bid bonds, and then on top of that, they're collecting money all for their retirement. Okay, it's
Yep.
it's it's pretty crazy.
And you can also challenge them to actually bring the bond forward. Or in some, a lot of these cases, show me the bond.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know who's the person that's doing it. There, that's a whole different subject for another time. But these are some of the things that this is hidden in plain sight from us, that we don't know how to function the courts, which actually it wasn't designed like this. The idea for attorneys were people that were mentally incapable to represent themselves in a court of law, which is why the term, and it's so well protected under sue juris, and going under those things, and turn around and saying, I'm going to represent myself in the court. And the first thing that those bar attorneys do is throw back you. You're trying to practice law without a license. Well, we come to find out that there were three types of licenses in every state. One, a private license to practice law privately. One, a public license, which is required to do anything for the public, including CPS. So if you don't have a public license, that's practicing law without a license, because you only have the proper license to practice privately, not publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of CPS attorneys are getting caught, and GALs, because they both have to have that public license. If they don't, they can't. And here's the real winner. Your third one is a federal license. And a lot of your family attorneys don't have a federal license, which is why you're not getting a change of jurisdiction. You're not getting a change of jurisdiction whatsoever. And you're fighting in the wrong courtroom. And a lot of these things, like you were talking about before, the case laws, even going back to the state, that's if you're fighting in a state courtroom. Because if you get to a federal courtroom, there's no need for it. Why? Because we're under federal jurisdiction. You can bring it up, but if you're going from that point of view of the federal case laws and everything else, you got to change jurisdiction, which is a lot of these people, they're not doing, especially with their Fourth Amendment violations. They're going into the family court, and this guy came in and this, that, and the judge goes right over it. You failed to file the paperwork for a change of jurisdiction due to constitutional rights or civil rights matters. But they're not telling you that, and neither is the attorneys.
Well, Well,
I mean,
because
it makes me sick.
the attorneys are never going to do that. I don't care if you spend $200,000 on an attorney or it's a court-appointed attorney. Attorneys are simply not going to do that. Why? Because their very first sworn oath and duty is to the state and to the court, not the client. Right? So that's number one. Number two, people have got to understand that when you're dealing with jurisdiction, even with CPS is mandated to follow federal laws and regulations as well. The courts are as well. Why? Because they're receiving federal funding.
You have to qualify. Yep, that's how you qualify, is following the rules. If you don't follow those rules, you don't get the federal money. Those are the contract. That's the guideline.
I mean, we just experienced this with Donald Trump and the governor of Maine. This is blowing up right now all over TikTok and social media, where the governor said, the governor of Maine said, hey, I'll see you in court, because Trump called her out and said, hey, if you don't follow federal law and our executive orders, you're not going to get any federal funding. Well, Trump is absolutely freaking correct on this, because if you're not willing to follow federal law, you're not qualified to receive federal funding. It's the same thing with
Dallas,
CPS agents.
We've got somebody in the back room right now, our buddy Vinny. Vinny, you back there? Where's Vinny? He's from Maine. Vinny, come on here.
Yeah,
let's get Vinny
talk
out
about
here.
it.
We're talking about Maine. He has brought up Maine and the president. Vinny, you reside in the state of Maine. How corrupt is Maine? Now we got a short period of time, but
Maine is 100% corrupt, from our judicial systems to our governor, to the state police, to the local police, to the court systems. Every single one of them, CPS, DHS, every one of them. None of the paperwork has a seal. None of their paperwork is authentic. A lot of it is done by DocuSign.
Electronic signatures. Defective.
Nope. Pen and paper cannot be photographed. Per the Constitution. Even on your warrants.
Oh, trust me, I've everyone that knows that's on the show knows that I have been fighting for almost 2 years. I have not been able to see my kids. They have alienated my older daughter from me, and my wife. They only allow my youngest to see her mother, and that is it. I have not had one visit with my children in 2 years.
Well, here's the biggest problem with that, Vinny. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it doesn't matter what state you live in, what county or jurisdiction you live in.
That's right.
They're bound by federal, constitutional, state law and policies. And the biggest thing about it is that they have to show the fact that they're trying everything in their power to be the least aggressive and the least abrasive track to where they're reunifying the children with the parents. If they're not doing that,
they have not.
They're in deep trouble.
They cease reunification on both of us.
Yeah.
They cannot possibly do that without showing some kind of probable cause to believe the children would be in imminent danger in your custody.
Now,
it's all based on hearsay and accusations, coercion and manipulation.
Now let's talk about this, because I know a little bit about both of you guys, and I want to talk about, especially one of the things we deal here is on mental health. And Dallas, you brought this up earlier, as going through the system, that you have to make a choice whether or not you're going to be like that and be abusive, or turn around and say, I'm going to put everything in my possible way to make sure I'm absolutely not going to do that. And one example, now I was abused as I was a child, physically beaten several different ways. But at the same time, it's one of those things I said, I would never do that to my child. And I would make sure the root cause was disciplining when you were angry. And one of the rules I always tell parents and everything else out there, is never discipline when you're angry, even if it's an hour later, whatever you need to diffuse, send them off to their room to think about it. Never raise your hand to a child when you are angry, no matter what it is. And that the punishment should fit the crime. If the child almost kills himself, yes, love on him, this and that, but then beat that ass within an inch of that life is my thing, and that's just old school. But I guarantee you, you'll never do that again, and we can testify to that. But guys,
Eh,
um, I want to talk about this because you talk about that, and then I talk about Vinny knowing some of his things. He had the influence of somebody that did, we'll say supposedly or allegedly get abused, that then influenced a child that was so overreactive and proactive that they looked for things that weren't there. What do you have to say to that mentality of people out there that maybe never healed and now is actively looking so aggressively they've got to find it to make themselves feel whole?
well, to Gunner, to speak on that a little bit, and I know Mr. Naylor is here because Miss Amy is Mr. Naylor. Mr. Naylor, why don't you tell Gunner what you told me on the phone today in the chat? Because you got to see my file. You got to see what exactly these people are doing to me. And it is beyond wrong. Beyond. Yeah. Sorry, I was talking to my wife. She's just came in.
Oh, that's fine. I was just hollering at one of the kids, let the dogs out. But I mean, Dallas, I mean, this is why healing, I mean, wouldn't you agree? I mean, how much healing did you had to go through to get to that point to, I mean, this is not just an overnight thing of healing too. This is an ongoing process.
Well, just to give you guys a little bit about my past, yes, I've told you in the very beginning of the show that in every single home that I was in while I was being trafficked through CPS was a living nightmare. Rape, torture, starvation, immense abuse like crazy. The last foster home that I was in was actually the stepping stones into me healing, as because they were actually pastors of their own church, and they were preparing me, and I think God was preparing me as well, in that home for my next steps in my life, which I was adopted at the age of 15. But before I got adopted, and before I went into that last foster home, I was insanely shy. I was mute. I didn't talk. I had my hat over my eyes all the time. My head was always low. I didn't trust nobody. I didn't talk to nobody unless there was another child around or something like that I could play with or whatever. But I didn't trust adults as far as I can throw them.
Actually, I think we have that video, and you know what, Darren, I know you're in the back room. You want to put that video on so they can all re-see what actually happened to me?
But anyway, so the time when I started turning around was at the very couple of last months of me being inside that home, where I was actually baptized. And then as soon as I got baptized, my whole entire world changed because I started talking again. I started looking people in the eyes, and my communication and everything like that changed completely. And then from that point forward into my older teenage years, I started going through more therapy. I started learning how to communicate. I started learning how to express who I was and what my feelings were in a healthier manner. And that just followed me. Yes, did I screw up? Did I still end up in the legal system? And I did almost 6 years in prison. Yeah, I did all that. Right. And that's why I learned a lot about the law. But healing comes in a lot of different ways, a lot of different avenues for people who have been victims of the system. And I think we just have to connect with these people a little bit stronger and understand what they're going through. it's definitely a process. There's no one way, or another to achieve success. I mean, it's just something that has to be worked out.
It's a daily thing you live with. It's a
Mm-hmm.
part of you. But you got to know where to categorize it. I mean,
Right.
and to live in fear though that you're looking for it everywhere, that everybody's doing something or every little thing is too much or going to extremes, I think is just way too overboard. And I think they need to, you would figure that the people that are in this system would understand that to look for that or identify it since they've been in it so long to say, hey, let's look at who our mandatory reporters or who our reporters are, who's doing this, and look at some of their history. Do they have a history of abuse and this and that? Because that really needs to be questioned. And that's even from the soft science point of view that even Sharon and I have talked about, and she's got a degree in this stuff. That absolutely you're not preparing them the best they are, because the only thing they're looking for is a horror story, and every story that you're sent to is a horror story, and that's what they're trained, as well as breaking out and breaking into your damn home and everything else. But I think we're going to see this shift in our country, and we are seeing it to where now the things that we started making the voices. I mean, as you know, I'm banned from TikTok. I mean, I can't get on at all, totally 100% banned, even trying to create ghost accounts or anything else. As soon as I go up, they find it's me, I'm down just that fast. I'm on the ban list. um, but when we started breaking that, I mean, even on my TikTok page and a few other platforms, I mean, I know, Dallas, you've had stuff taken down off TikTok when things were getting exposed left and right, and people just freaking the hell out. And then you've noticed where they're shunning you, and those numbers go way down when you had a bunch of numbers and shadow banning and all this other stuff that's been going on, because they know we're making a difference, and because our voices are being heard, and because people are listening, and it's real stories. And when people begin to actually talk, you'd be surprised how many people have encountered CPS, probably just in your town, that they've had to create jobs. So, um, and like I said, in a lot of mental health, but I mean, one of the things too is, guys, if you're going through some of this, find somebody to talk to, especially if you're suicidal and you're going through this. Find somebody, even if reaching out to any of us or any of our guests. Dallas has got his own platform on TikTok, Truth Hurts. And from my understanding too, did you not just start a new job with a news station as an actual reporter?
I did, but that's kind of on hold for right now. We're trying to work out some different things. I think I jumped the gun on announcing some of that, but it's still being worked out. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually really excited. I've actually started publishing my own newsletter as a journalist, and as soon as I am able to get a little bit more mobile and travel a little bit more, I'm going to be doing a lot of investigative reporting and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Awesome. I mean, a lot of things are breaking.
I think Darren's working on the video. I think Darren's working on the video to get up there.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the back room on what's there for videos up there. Guys, one thing too is, we deal with this, and we every other week. This week we're dealing with case law, but we do like to touch on the mental health. But we do specifically exchange every other week on case law. And I was just talking to Sharon the other actually today, and I think we're going to be putting together a special just for you guys on why we don't need the Department of Education, and a special on homeschooling and alternate schooling and unschooling your children. From her perspective, she grew up in that system. She was homeschooled. Her parents were military. Her children, because of the issues that they have, they now take, and she homeschools her kids because of the advantages. No, it does not take 8 hours, but let's get from those things. But like I said, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Did he get that spun up there, Ben? Because I know we're getting close here on time.
I mean, we don't have any other shows tonight, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think.
Oh, well, guess what? We're off the hook, Dallas. You good to hang?
What was that?
So we got a little bit of time.
Said we got some more time. I said, you good to hang out for a while?
I actually, I did have another appointment here in a little bit. I told somebody I'd be calling them in an hour on another appointment, but
that's fine. If you need to sign out, brother, it was great to have you. I hope to have you back as this thing progressed. Just to let you know, the story we broke that I played, that I turned in, that evidence that we broke on all 50 states, that was turned over to the FBI. And I just got a response the other day. FBI is currently looking into the state of Tennessee for those publications, which would actually prove child trafficking in the state of Tennessee 100%. And here's the other thing. It also shows they've been using state tax money and federal funding to train state employees and subcontractors to violate your constitutional rights. People, that is an act of treason and sedition, as we called it out before. And it is time, and it is coming down. They are gathering the evidence now. The hammer is coming.
Yeah, we saw that a mile away.
I think we
saw
got
that
it
a mile away, Gunner.
Here you go. Here you go. Watch this, you guys.
Bigger screen there. Can you make it dominant?
I'm gonna fight till the end. I'm gonna fight till the end.
Awesome sound. Sorry, guys, had a studio error there.
No, it's because it has music with it.
Oh, did you put it to music?
Yep, because I posted it on my TikTok.
I want you now. You'll notice here, Dallas. There's not one warrant in anybody's hand. Where's the paper warrant? You got to present it.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't just show up and arrest somebody.
Can you come outside the door, please? Yes.
Well, you're about to witness what you're about to witness.
Come outside the door. We'll come back in.
Unless they actually witness somebody actually in the process of a crime.
Let's go, Tim. Let's go. Out.
Oh, that's illegal.
Oh,
Put your hands behind your back.
That's illegal.
Ow! Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Handcuff on.
My attorney knows where I am.
no warrant presented before arrest.
Vinny.
Stop resisting. Stop fighting. Put your hand behind your back.
Now watch this.
Who's that woman in the blue?
Stop, or I'm gonna drive stun
That
you. Do you
is-
He's
understand
got an
that?
elbow on
You're
his
gonna get hit
spine.
by a taser if you don't
Who's
stop.
the elbow in the blue? Who's the girl in the blue?
You have bail conditions to.
I know it. My lawyer knows where I am.
Ready to get tased. Put your hand
I think
behind your
she's
back.
state.
Vinny, put your hand
Put your
behind
hand behind
your
your
back.
He
back.
was a local cop, wasn't she, Vinny?
Hand behind your back.
Those two, the ones in the dark blue are local, and the one is a state detective.
State detectives in blue just put an illegal move to pin down a perp by putting an elbow in the spine.
Ollie, go out back now. Shut the drawer. Go out back. Shut the window.
One detained.
Out back now. DJ. Copy one. Can you go over to Hanover to let my wife know? Huh? Can you go over to? I'm going over Hanover to let his wife know.
Vinny, sit up.
Roll over on your butt.
Sit up.
Stand up.
All right, turn around.
Was that your phone?
Please put it in there. Can I get my stuff out of my pocket, please?
Where is it?
Front pocket too. In there.
Yep, we're going.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Wow.
illegal shit going on in that video.
Oh, here's the best part of the story. That Benny should carry. I can share this, Benny. Obviously, we're good. The reason he was arrested was because the judge or the court clerk forgot to put down on there that the judge okayed he could go to work.
They forgot
to file it.
To file, yeah.
Yeah.
The judge ordered it.
Yeah, this is why people are not supporting police officers anymore. This is why people are going after judges. This is why people people are going to start standing up in the
It's
hundreds
all
and the
coming
hundreds
down.
and hundreds of people. Yeah, this is going to go down really, really bad.
And because of things like this show, the things Dallas does, the things we do, the things Vinny, Darren, everybody else out there that's part of this network, and other parents' rights advocates out there, the making the noise that we're doing has now got their attention, and people are being educated and turning towards getting educated. And now the time of accountability is coming, and now our administration is finally stepping up, backing up we the people, that it is we the people that are the government. Not your elected appointed officials and actors.
My take on this before I bounce, Gunner, and I thank you enough. I appreciate you for having me here on the show. But even if the police officer showed up with a phone and they said, well, the warrant's on the phone, that's still illegal. You have to be presented with a wet signature copy of the arrest warrant, and they have to give you time to actually review it. Here's the thing. Here's my belief, and it's a very strong belief. And if I ever run for office, which there's a lot of people that said they want me to, if I ever run for office, here's what I would campaign on. And I shit you not. I would campaign on the fact that any officer, any public servant whatsoever, but more so any officer, any judge who violates somebody's constitutionally protected rights and violates their oath of office will not just be fired, they will be fired and thrown in prison immediately. I would campaign on that solely alone. And I would get rid of qualified immunity. Done. This right here, Gunner, this has to take precedence over everything in this country. Otherwise, the country's going to topple.
And it says that we have case law on that says that if you take and violate the Constitution, your immunity's gone.
Right, you become an enemy of the state.
At the time you
when
do
those
it.
Police officers arrested you without a valid legal warrant, they violated their oath of office, which means they became an enemy of the state. They no longer became a peace officer.
Every bit of it. And now they're listening. They're calling people out. And now FBI, thanks to our new director, has put a fire under everybody, got together with the DOJ, because as soon as they both got approved, did you see what happened? Once the new FBI director got approved, it took less than 24 hours for that to come out. Guys, it's game on. This time's over. All these people that have enslaved us, pressed us down, thought they were better than us, didn't want to go to work as a regular person, getting their hands fucking dirty, doing just, any kind of work. I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to steal from you. I'm going to enslave you. And this is how that system is working, which if you'll look at what some of that says in some of the other documents from those emails and the things the Department of Justice published, which you can go to my Facebook page and see some of those there,
go, buddy.
As well as the response. Dallas, it was great having you. We'll see you here next time. And thanks again, guys. Shout out to Dallas, and go check out Truth Hurts. Check him out on TikTok.
TikTok is actually Malibu Dallas.
Great.
It's not Truth Hurts, but it's Malibu Dallas on
Malibu
TikTok.
Dallas. Malibu Dallas.
All right, guys. Go. Thank you.
There you are,
guys.
guys.
Later.
Thanks again, Dallas. Have a good one. Guys, it comes down to this. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and the days of it not being that are over. It is time to clean up the mess. And now you've brought out all these people that have all these things to where, guess what? And I called it, Benny. What did I tell you? You're about to play a game of fuck around and find out with Gen Xers, and they are fucking done. We saw the bullshit of all the previous generations. We just tolerated it. That's why we are the way we are.
Right there. Coming out. That's straight from my mother. Right there. That's my mother, everybody.
There you go. Listen, guys, if you're a religious person, whatever it may be, it was made very clear. It is better for you to tie a millstone around your motherfucking neck and jump off yourself, commit suicide, than fuck with families and children. Bottom line, that's what it comes down to. And if this is coming to its fruition, the pendulum has swung so far left, we're going to see a correction.
I don't know if you were paying attention to what I put in the chat a little while ago, but just in case no one really paid attention, Dan Bongino is now acting director with Kash Patel.
Guys, it's stacking the boat. It is exactly what it is. A lot of this is going on. Like I said, I know we covered a lot. Guys, just remember, if you've missed something on the show, you joined us late, we cover something through here, remember to like and follow. And we publish these. These are done live most times. There are a few shows here that are doing pre-records, but our show is live. And once it's gone through the process, we do put it up on the different platforms to make sure you can access them, see them again, and get that information. So if you've missed something or you want to show the show to somebody, guys, let's get those numbers up because we're sharing a lot of things. And trust me, once and very soon, once things get going in my case, we're going to open up a whole different can of whoop ass because I'm going to show you what they did to me and what's being filed and how it's being filed and exposing so much corruption and everything else. Now you'll begin to understand why I'm talking to the DOJ and the FBI and all those other people and why it's coming around. And I'm even bridging other cases together with what we found. And guys, it's not just my state. They have all 50 states and they have seen what we have.
Well,
and that is guiding them.
Well, I can tell you guys before we do end, I can tell you what, Maine ain't taking no shit because Mainers are starting to fight back and attacking every school district in Maine now. And they're attacking Janet Mills, who was also caught on TikTok. If you guys go look her up, Mills at a drag show in Portland, Maine. It's on TikTok.
Guys,
it's on X.
Listen, it's our children. The only thing children should be doing is children stuff. All this other stuff is propaganda. It's politics, and it has no place with our children. That's the thing we're supposed to be. That's when they're 18. They have enough sense. They've been slowly exposed to it. Their parents have had time to educate them about what they're seeing and what's true, what's not. But with CPS, that's what they're looking to disturb and destroy your family and your lineage and your heritage and your culture. That's exactly what they're going after. And when you got people that are committing forgery, perjury, falsifying court documents out of your jurisdiction, people not knowing to go to jurisdiction to where the courts are actually holding your case in the state court rather than changing jurisdiction, knowing it would end, that's why they don't tell you. That is not full disclosure under the law. And there's the other thing that they don't like. Those judges are required when they lose jurisdiction and they know it, especially when you deal like in my case with Fourth Amendment, it was brought up. As soon as it was brought up, you lost jurisdiction. You should have stopped. And guess what? Now it's going to cost you everything you've ever had. You'll never serve again, and you'll never deal with fucking children again. I'll fucking make sure of it. Because what's coming is about to be the hammer, and you ain't going to like it. And understand, you played fuck around and find out. but you went after something core, people. You went after a fucking family, and you went after the wrong families. So now your day of reckoning is coming, and now we have the backing of the FBI, the DOJ, and the executive branch of government, which is returning us back to what we wanted, the Constitution. Follow the fucking thing. That's all we're asking. The American citizens, that's all. Now, I'm going to fuck that. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm motherfucking demanding as the government. Follow the fucking Constitution. Or let's put it this way. You do that much damage, that's what treason's for. The problem is we're not using it. Mr. President, if you watch this or anybody else that's out there of influence, yes, we need to bring back treason. We need to take and start doing one-way trips for these real corrupt motherfuckers right down to Gitmo. And right before, after that, it's up to the Kraken, a military tribunal. It's not mine, not yours. It's up to them. I just say we need to send them up there and have their day in court before the tribunal. That's all I'm saying. After that, what happens after that, whatever the verdict is, well, let's follow it. And maybe turn around and, well, we need to hide this from people, this and that. No. Your children need to understand what it means to commit treason in this country, and there's no fear of it. Well, we hide everything. Things die, live, birth, everything every day. We are so shallow and protected from life itself. Things live, things die, things come into this world new. But when you turn around and you deny that education to a child of the cycle of life, you have now robbed that child of the most precious thing, the value of life itself. Vinny, I appreciate you jumping on here, jumping with Maine. I appreciate it. We'll look to have you on next time. Catch us out, and we'll catch up on that special show, that will go on. We're actually putting together, I think, quite a few different things, and quite a few. We're going to work on some really big guests, and maybe there might be a few big names in there as well. So, guys, pay attention. Keep close. Vin, thanks again. Guys, this is, it comes down to this simple. We demand you follow the Constitution, because what you've done with our kids, our families, and everything else has now been called out by the Department of Justice as unconstitutional. And we knew it. And when we turn to those that we're serving, that were meant to protect us, such as the judges, the sheriffs, the police, and this and that, have failed to uphold their oath to the Constitution, which is the very fabric of who we are as a people, then our country is gone. For them to whine and cry about returning to the Constitution tells you exactly who our enemy is and who is looking to actually overthrow the government. Because if you're going against the Constitution, you're looking to overthrow this country. And that's just the bottom line. Guys, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been fun. For some reason, there we go. But as always, we muddle through it. We get through everything we have. Guys, stay strong. Stay positive. Help each other. Build each other up. We're almost through this. It's about to start. Guys, this has only been a couple months. Can you imagine what this country's going to look like in a year, 2 years, if this continues to just gut and gut and gut? Maybe the possibility of the American dream may return back to this country. But one thing that absolutely needs to happen is return to the Constitution and hold each other accountable to that measure from here on out, and that line never be crossed again. Thanks again, guys. Join us next week. Same bad time, same bad channel.
Justice for all, America strong. Sing this anthem loud, sing our song. Stand up, fight for justice, we demand. Gunning for CPS off our land. For family truth with a strong hand. Time to rise, take it broken past. Faith and hope, never too far. Return our kids, make them the stars. Corruption falls like shattered glass. Together we stay, no more broken past. Faith and hope, never too far. Return our kids, make them the stars. Stand up, fight for justice, we demand. Gunning for CPS off our land.